I remember the exact moment I disappeared. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Like a breath held too long. Like a question that never got asked. It happened on a Tuesday. The sun was warm. The coffee was bitter. And I realized I hadn't heard my own laughter in months. He sat across the room, laughing at something on his phone. And I sat there, right in front of him, vanishing. It didn't start that way. We were magic, once. We used to make love with the windows open, giggle under blankets, dream out loud about places we'd never been. He told me I was his muse. His anchor. His everything. And I believed him. Not just because he said it. But because, for a while, I felt it. But what no one tells you about slow disappearances is how gentle they are. How kind, even. At first, it's small. He forgets the story you told him yesterday. He laughs less at your jokes. He stops noticing your new perfume. Then one day, you wear your favorite red dress, and he doesn't look up. You tell him you're tired, and he says, "You're always tired." You cry quietly in the bathroom and convince yourself you're just being sensitive. I kept loving him. Hard. Desperately. I thought if I loved him enough, he'd come back to me. The version of him that used to bring me sunflowers and kiss my shoulder in passing. So I overcompensated. Cooked his favorite meals. Laughed even when the jokes weren't funny. Stopped talking about my bad days because I didn't want to be a burden. And each time I stayed quiet, a part of me dissolved. One less opinion. One less story. One less dream shared. Until I wasn't a woman anymore. Just an outline. There was a moment I whispered to myself. I miss you. But I wasn't talking about him. I was talking about me. The girl who used to write poetry at 2 a.m. The one who danced barefoot in the living room. Who believed in horoscopes and happy endings. Who laughed loudly and lived loudly. She was gone. Buried under compromise. And grief. Grief over who I had become. Then, one evening, I walked past a mirror and didn't recognize myself. Not just physically. But spiritually. My eyes looked tired. My smile looked practiced. And in that reflection, I saw something more terrifying than loneliness. I saw acceptance. I had accepted the slow death of my spirit. That night, I sat on the floor of the bathroom and cried. Not pretty tears. Not cinematic sobs. Raw, aching, guttural weeping. I cried for all the times I said, "It's fine," when it wasn't. For all the plans I canceled because he didn't feel like going. For all the art I didn't make. For the pieces of myself I had bartered away. And then, through swollen eyes and shaking hands, I asked a question. What if I chose me this time? It didn't happen overnight. There was no grand speech. No cinematic walkout. Just small rebellions. I started waking up early again. Not to cook for him. But to walk. I made playlists that only I liked. I bought plants. I lit candles, not for mood, but for magic. My magic. I said no to things I didn't want to do. I stopped apologizing for crying. I stopped waiting for him to notice. And something inside me shifted. He noticed eventually. The silence was different. I wasn't begging. I wasn't chasing. I wasn't contorting. I was, still. But not small. He asked, "What's wrong with you lately?" I smiled. Not cruelly. But calmly. And I said, "I'm remembering." He didn't understand. But he didn't need to. Some days were harder than others. There were moments I reached for my phone to text him something funny. And then I remembered the last 10 times I did that, and he didn't reply. So I wrote it in a journal instead. I started talking to friends I had drifted from. They said, "You seem lighter." I didn't feel lighter. But I felt honest. And that was new. One morning, I looked out the window, coffee in hand, blanket around my shoulders. And I felt it. Stillness. Peace. Not because everything was perfect. But because I had stopped begging imperfection to love me. I had stopped trying to be lovable. And started loving myself. Not in the self-care cliché way. But in the radical, holy, gut-deep way. The kind of love that says, I will never leave me again. I still miss him, sometimes. Or maybe I just miss the idea of being loved. But every time that ache comes, I take a deep breath. Place a hand on my heart. And whisper. I am here. I am not leaving. I choose you. And somehow, that is enough. Now, when I walk past the mirror, I see her again. The girl who writes. Who sings in the shower. Who wears bold lipstick just because. She looks at me with proud eyes. We made it. We didn't stay in the quiet death. We chose life. We chose us. And for the first time. In a long, long time. We are free.